let's talk a little bit about, common toy rotation questions that I get. How many toys should be out at the same time? Well, that really depends. If you all go the Montessori way, they're going to tell you, I think it's about 8. But what I notice is just really, it depends on the area that you have. I always think less is more, and then assign an area. So I had 2 bookshelves. One has 5 areas and the other one had 2, 4, 6, 8. They had 8. So I had about 13 little spaces. And what I noticed is even though I put 1 toy per area, it was still too much. Like it was just, there were toys everywhere. It was all over the place. So that's when I removed that bookcase, turned it into a bookcase and put it in the room, and then only kept that 5 areas for assigned toys. It has the shelf on the top and maybe a loose areas on the side. I think the most important is to just try your system, because the system that's going to stick is a system that works for you. Start with many if you think that you are getting rid of too much, and then you're going back to the clutter situation. If you're going back to cleanup takes a long time, or he's just dumping everything, you might still have too many toys out. So just, remove them. If you want a number, I give you start with 8 and go from there. How often should you rotate the toys? When I started researching, there were people saying that you would do this every week. So every Sunday I was flipping and changing and moving my playroom around, and it was exciting. I would love to create this little invitation to plays, and I would create the little zoo, and I would create these little things, and what I noticed is that there were toys that he still wanted to play with, and I was removing them. And it was a lot of work, to be honest, because there's a lot going on. I still had to plan the activities that we were going to do that week, and I still had to prepare those materials. So it was a lot of preparing on Sundays. Sundays was really hard. I had to prepare the meal plan for the week. For me, doing it weekly was very exhausting. I couldn't keep up with it. And then I just felt guilty. And then, mom guilt always comes back. So I stopped doing that. And then I learned that some other people didn't do it like that. They could do it bi-weekly. Some people do it monthly. But what I noticed, what worked for me, is the power of observation. Like we talked about, I would go in there and I would see, and I still do. I see which toys, like I really kind of invited him to play. Like I put the Legos in a pretty basket, and the Legos are like exactly how I put them 2 or 3 weeks ago. Something's telling me that toy needs to be rotated. It needs to go. He's not using it. It's just cluttering up space. I can bring something in that same category that's new. So I just do that. Like for me, I'm always with Manu. We're always playing in the playroom. I just, from time to time, I'll be like, it's been a while I haven't changed things around. So let me look around and see what's going on. And I'll start seeing what he's playing with and seeing what's really organized. Because if it's really organized, they're not touching it. And then just remove those, go to my storage space and change those around. And that for me has been a lot easier to maintain. So a system that I can maintain is a system that I like. Do you rotate all toys or some toys stay out? So like I said, in my special case, I just do some of them. The ones that he's just not interacting with, those are the ones that I change, that I rotate. What if my toddler doesn't have a lot of toys? So this is something that it goes in my mind a lot, because I don't like toys. Like I don't like to buy them. They're hard for me. There's a lot of the stuff that you see at the store with the flashing lights and the plastic, like it's really hard for me to be like, yes, I'm going to buy this. In my mind, there's always the toys that we do have are donations and gifts and things like that. But I do feel like sometimes like we don't have a lot. And maybe I have that feeling because when I did my storage system, I didn't have a lot of toys to put away. So I came into like a little panic, like, oh my God, like my child doesn't have enough toys of this or that, and he's missing out, and it goes back into that mindset of more toys means more playtime, which is not true. But then I do remember, like, I create a lot of invitations to play. I have some blocks that I made. They're wooden cards that have printed out the animals. And then I have the little tiny zoo animals, and they match. This is not a toy that I bought at the store, but it's an activity that is going to work on that cognitive skill, because they have to match that animal that's on the card, that picture, with the 3D animal that is on their box. And that is a toy that I created. There's other toys that I have used recycling materials. So there's a box, like a tissue box that I made like a pendant on the side, and he would throw the wooden balls, and they would fall out. Not a toy I purchased, not a toy that's in my rotation. It's just a toy that I created out of recycling. So you can, if you feel like you don't have enough toys to rotate, you can create your own little toys and activities. You can put a tray with a coloring page and some of the dot stickers of one color. Let's say your picture is an apple, so you give them all the red dots, the stickers, and the activity is to peel those dots and, color your apple with those stickers. That's an activity that you create that you can use as a rotation system. So you can put them in the fine motor skill because they're peeling that out. So you don't always have to buy all these toys and have this huge storage. Should you rotate books? Absolutely. Books that, again, there's too many choices. They won't know what to do. I have like a combination of the two. In the playroom, I do have a basket, maybe like seasonal. I do like to think in seasons. So if we're into, like, he got stung by a bee, and that was very painful, and that was just marked his life for some moments. So I did create a basket around what we were going through. So it was a book about bugs, a book about bees, a book about flowers. So I do kind of do that. But then in his room, I do have the rest of my books. So they are easily accessed. The ones that are not accessed, that are stored away, are the ones that are too advanced. How to deal with birthdays, Christmas, and other holidays with the overflow of toys. One rule that I always do is right before birthdays and right before holidays, I do the declutter challenge. I go through those 5 stages and I see what I can get rid of in preparation to make space for the incoming flow. I also have a wish list of toys like the Lincoln Logs and the Magnet Tiles, that if people were to ask, what should I give your child? I do have an Amazon wish list, and I do have an Amazon toy suggestion if you want to check that out. You can go to kidactivities.com, and then there's on the menu, it's an Amazon favorites. So, I kind of try to point people out to the type of toys that I want, but it's not always the case. Some people want to give you whatever they want to give you, and then you just, have to make a decision when they come in. Is this something that, my child will benefit? Is this something that fits into my categories? And do I want to replace it with something else? Or do I want to add it into my collection? So I'm not very strict in do not give my child this Paw Patrol flashing light thing. But in the back of my mind, I know that those type of toys he's not going to use for a long time. So they might have to come in and out of rotation, often, because the novelty of the lights, and if a toy only does one thing, they get used less.